Welcome to another day in the Matrix. This is Waters Above and another wild week in these markets. Watching altcoins break out left and right as Bitcoin stalls out at 44K and gives up dominance for the altcoins to catch up. We also have the Dow Jones and Nasdaq trading at all-time highs right into the end of the year. And since we're moving into a 3-day weekend for the traditional markets and crypto will be trading alone after today's market close, I thought this would be the perfect time to share my thoughts on what I'm expecting next for this crypto market, and to also take the time to revisit the fundamentals and talk a little bit about mindset for investing. Since we're now in a time where greed has taken over and all of those that are new here to the space are feeling the FOMO creep in, and for those who feel like they've missed out on the last bull run and are not sure what to do right now, this is the video for you. So we have a lot to get into today, and this video might be one of the most important videos I've made all year due to the themes that we'll be discussing. And I don't say this lightly. This is one of those videos that you'll want to watch all the way until the end and take notes. This will be absolutely packed with value. So if you're new here, we do cryptocurrency technical analysis and combine it with Gematria, Numerology, and Astrology to understand these markets. Feel free to subscribe and turn on the bell notification to stay updated on when new videos come out. And make sure to give this video a like and share this channel with other conscious beings to help grow our community. And with that being said, let's take the clear pill. So tomorrow is the last day of Saturnalia, a time frame we've been talking about here on this channel for the past couple months, which is between December 17th through 23rd. And since this year's Saturnalia festival ends on a Saturday, or Saturn's Day, this is definitely something to keep in mind, since crypto will be trading alone into this 3-day weekend for the stock market closed on Christmas, while the stock market is essentially trading at all-time highs. Both the Dow Jones and Nasdaq are currently in price discovery, and the S&P 500 is within 2% of breaking all-time highs. The Russell 2000, on the other hand, is lagging behind, but this past week it did break a 500-day resistance and testing in a range it hasn't traded in for 600 days. So everything is essentially in a breakout right now, and it's clear we're in this stage of greed across the board. And speaking of greed, its twin brother is FOMO, which is why yesterday I made an important update regarding Solana over on my Patreon. This is where I've been putting in the work to share as many behind the scenes updates that I can to keep everyone on track in this market. And this post was essentially a warning to not let FOMO get the best of you at these times. And I know our community really appreciated this update. So if you'd like access to these more frequent updates and my Red Pill podcast that I release every week, that's available over at patreon.com/watersabove for the Mastermind community membership. And I'll have my next podcast coming out this Sunday, so stay tuned for that. Really excited to get into that. It'll pretty much be the last podcast of the year. And in the meantime, if you joined the membership, you can check out my recent podcast, and you'll also have access to over 250 exclusive posts as of now, as well as our Discord server for our community group chat. So this update post I shared yesterday, it included a chart for Solana that we will be getting into, revisiting the 2020 cycle and how back in 2020 during the solstice, which was essentially yesterday, and into December 23rd of 2020, Solana finished an almost 80% correction on the last day of Saturnalia, which would be tomorrow. Whilst this time around, we're seeing Solana pumping into the solstice, and it's clearly overheating into the last day of Saturnalia, which is tomorrow. And we'll be covering the TA on Solana in today's video. And it's not because we are giving our attention to it now. It's something we're talking about to prevent people from FOMOing. And this is really crucial, because this is one of those projects that we've been talking about since I created my channel. And due to the timing of when I created my channel, it was just circumstantial. But I remember the energy that this particular project started to get as it was getting overheated. I remember bigger channels coming out, pretty much telling people to FOMO in and to get involved and to get excited at the complete antithesis of when you should be excited. And that's what today's video is going to be all about, the market wisdom. It's needed now more than ever. So what we're seeing in this market right now is important because there's a lot of symbolism. And here on this channel, we get into the esoterica. We're talking about Gematria, decoding in general. We're talking about astrology, astronomy, numerology. And what we see here is symbolism with Solana. The symbolism is tied to the sun. This sun portal called Sol by the Romans, which was called Helios by the Greeks. Then, of course, we need to consider the eclipses for Solana tied to the sun. And if we tie in tomorrow's date, effectively the last day of Saturnalia, December 23rd on Saturn Day, to this next solar eclipse on April 8th of 2024, it's 108 days apart. This is really important because 108 is an esoteric number tied to the sun, astronomy, and spirituality. But this 108 also shows up directly in the Gematria of Solana. And remember, Gematria is an alphanumerical cipher. It's turning our words into numbers, and this is how we can see deeper into the code of language. And you have Solana as the full name of the project and the ticker symbol combined, giving you 108. So when we take this into consideration, this actually perfectly ties in to not only the code of this project, but the upcoming solar eclipse, which synchronizes with this solstice for Solana. Again, it's the project right now that is getting all the prana. It's in the eyes of everyone because it's pumping. These are not necessarily distractions as much as they are a way of getting you to focus into an energy field, which makes you feel like you're missing out. And that's where FOMO comes in. Please pay attention to what we're getting into right now because very few speak on this. And we're here revealing the code that runs it all. So in 2020, Solana corrected through the winter solstice, and now we're moving up through this winter solstice, as above, so below. And if we go back to the 2020 chart, I actually want to show you this really quickly. We'll be pulling up this Solana chart, getting back to this 2020 time frame, and we want to zoom in from pretty much effectively the day after that this market topped out of September 2nd, 2020, all the way down to the day before the last day of Saturnalia. So in between the highs and lows, and you could see it's 111 days. And we now have the 111 code. This is something I talk about a lot on these YouTube videos. This 111 is the real Trinity number. Now let's tie everything together, assuming this Sunday, December 24th, which is Sol Day, Day of the Sun. Imagine this would be your short-term bull trap for Solana, theoretically. And I wanted to show you really quickly kind of what's on my mind here. If this was the case, and we were to go over 111 days, what this puts us into is April 13th, or excuse me, from this following Monday is what I meant to say, Christmas, because we're taking the days in between. That's what's crucial here. Now, this is really amazing because what it's showing me is April 14th. Well, if you've been following along my work, you know that you've heard me bring up this date many times. This whole decode that we're getting into right now is perfectly aligning with the date that I've been talking about for over a year now. In several YouTube videos, live streams, podcasts, even public interviews on other channels, I have warned about the date of April 15th being a date to expect something big to happen on the world stage, a ritual. And now I see it aligning perfectly with this Christmas. It's incredibly synchronized. And this esoteric Solana analysis and decode, by mistake, has confirmed this even more for me. Again, this is one way to see into what's going on in the extremes of our data so that we could decode it and figure out what's going to be happening in the so-called future. Now, I'm not saying that this short-term top date will be 100% exact, but I'm giving you a guide to follow of how this could all play out both from an esoteric and exoteric perspective with the analysis. And to wrap this up with technical analysis on Solana, I have this chart here exploring what I'm anticipating. I'll be opening this one up, and I'm giving this away now because I feel like this needs to be shown. Again, this was an update that I shared over on Patreon, and I've been going in making more updates than ever for our mastermind community. I know they've been appreciating having these smaller updates in between my Red Pill podcasts. So I'm bringing as much value as I possibly can to this membership, and it's only $9.99 a month. 4 podcasts a month, over 200 posts, unlocking the entire Livestream Archive, which is over 100 podcasts right now. So immediately giving access to so much value, and I'm trying to bring even more and more. Just dial this in, and again, to prepare us for a completely transformational bull run time in 2024. So I appreciate everyone's support, and it's been my honor to have this ability to connect with everyone. It's just, I'm so grateful for this. So I felt that it would be really important to share this, and because of what's going on right now, particularly in this project and all the FOMO that people are starting to feel. So first things first, we want to talk about this long-term yellow trend line. This has been a crucial trend line since the genesis of Solana, and you could see all the way throughout this bear market, we've had multiple touch points making this a critical support level. So this has been effective for essentially 4 years now. At this time, Solana's weekly RSI is around 84, which is very overheated. And back at this peak over here in September 2020, which we were recently talking about, we had an 86 RSI on the weekly. Right now we're about 84 before this deeper correction happened. And that was an 80% correction essentially if you included this tail to the downside. So this is aligning with TA. It's not just the pinion. And we need to be very clear on this because sometimes this happens on this channel where people forget that we are doing technical analysis and we're decoding here. And we always clearly delineate when we have an opinion and when we're analyzing. And this is very, very thorough. People just need to listen up. So what we're seeing here is clearly an overheated market matching weekly RSI, and we've given these big warnings out with RSI in advance several times on several projects before these deeper corrections. Again, it's been proven, and the proof is out there, whether you're following me on x.com or you're following along these YouTube videos. And what I'm seeing right now in Solana is one crucial warning sign. Now, we have another warning sign to consider, which is the fact that Solana is now effectively trading in the macro golden pocket between the 618 fib and the 786, right at the 702 fib, which is the exact same level that Bitcoin has been struggling at lately every time that it retests 44K. So this macro golden pocket on a logarithmic chart is typically where we see the finality of what I call an automatic rally utilizing Wyckoff method. And I teach this all in my crypto mastermind course over on my website, watersabove.com. So what we're seeing right now in this energy is what I would be calling a bull trap. And I know that's confusing because for some, a lot of people are feeling bullish for the first time now that we've started to have this energy in Solana. And that is the opposite energy you should be feeling as a sophisticated investor. You should be interested in something when it's already lost a substantial amount of its value, when it was boring, when there was blood in the streets, when people were calling it a scam, whatever. And that just doesn't apply to Solana, that applies to anything in this space. You always go the opposite of the herd. And now that we're all going up, the herd is all trying to get in. Learn from their mistakes. So this macro golden pocket that I'm discussing is typically where we see the finality of a bull trap. Now, I do have something that we need to talk about. And I have to be clear that crypto is not like a typical stock, for instance, and you should all know that. And we see anomalies happening all the time in cryptocurrency, even when utilizing best practices regarding our technical analysis. And an example of this would be this project right here, Singularity Net, which we can see it had a double top effectively in February of 2023, almost a year ago. This was isolated to this particular project. It would be considered an anomaly, but what we see here is that this was a very elusive move to the upside because it was still a bull trap. There was a lot of FOMOing in up here at this level around 50 cents, and from top to bottom of correction was almost 80%. Just like we saw back in 2020 with Solana, a 70 to 80% correction after getting extremely overheated. Regardless of the anomaly, it's still showing you not to get involved at tops. So just wanted to point that out. This whole type of market that we're seeing right now is very much in a dangerous, greedy territory. And we're in the wild, wild west of crypto. So anything is possible. And we have these ETFs looming. We all have heard about that. It's the talk of the town. And this is kind of the energy that we're getting, where people are speculating right now a little too late. And that's exactly when the apex predator, the market maker, whatever you want to call them, pulls the curtain back. And this is well, you guys know what comes next. So I just wanted to talk about some of these things, but getting back to the charts with Solana, and it's clearly overheated. I suspect on this weekly close that's coming in on Sunday night, we will see an RSI read above 85 into the 86 region, again on the weekly chart. And this, given this project has essentially moved up around 1,000% from this same time last year, it's due for a pullback. And this whole analysis is really to just teach you where to not get sucked into the emotional side of trading and fall for the FOMO when the market is in greed. Whether you own Solana or not, whether you care about it or not, there is still a lot of wisdom here that you could take away from this analysis and apply it where it's needed. And just a reminder for those that are new here, back in 2021, when Solana was effectively trading around $200 and Terra Luna was trading at all-time highs, I warned not only my community, but everyone in public warnings on YouTube videos that both of those projects, Solana and Terra Luna, are still likely to have a 95% correction into the bear market. I was adamant about that. And a lot of people were, well, they weren't so happy to hear that. They were saying I was wrong. They were saying that it wouldn't happen again like it happened in the last cycles with altcoins. And I said, nope, I'm pretty certain we're about to have 95% corrections across the board. I was saying it early. I was saying it when we were at top. And that's what we should be dialing into here as sophisticated analysts, is when everyone is feeling greedy, we should start becoming fearful. This is important because it was for my community to not FOMO into those projects while they were trading at overheated levels. And what happened? Terra Luna essentially went to zero, and Solana had a 97% correction from these all-time highs down to this swing low. And this isn't to say that I was right or I told you so. We don't care about that here. It was just to remind everyone that we do this often here on this channel. And what I mean by that is I expose the things that most don't see at a time where it's most important to see with clarity. We've done it tons of times with XRP. And for those that are in the Hex community and follow along that ecosystem, well, you know this to be the case as well. And I don't even invest in Hex. I'm just here to provide value by sharing the skills so that you can utilize these skills for yourself to become a self-reliant investor. That's my mission, and that's what our community is all about. And when we align with this, it'll make us unstoppable in this bull run, and it'll make 2024 the most transformational year of our lives without a doubt. But we need to focus on collaboration and not fall for the tribalism and lies This is the time now more than ever to focus on truth. And although the truth sucks to hear, the truth sets you free. And here, we're not on team crypto, we're not on team blockchain, or team central banks, or team ledger, or team Bitcoin, or XRP, or Hex. We are not even on team waters above. We are on team truth. And it's about time we all align there so that we can actually grow and thrive together as a community. And if you resonate with that, beautiful. If you don't, then maybe this isn't the channel for you, and that's completely fine. No one is here trying to convince anyone of how this world works or how this market works. That's ultimately up to you to decide. That's your choice. So let's get over into Bitcoin and get into the Bitcoin analysis, and then wrap up this video with Ethereum and XRP. And just some final words here with this chart that we're seeing with Solana. Deeper correction, likely back to the 382, is in the cards. And if I had to nail in a time frame, it would be sometime between the February full moon through April full moon. And that has everything to do with the analysis and decode that I was sharing earlier about the 111 days between top and bottom, leading us into April 15th specifically, which is a ritual date, which will be right after a solar eclipse. And we're here talking about Solana. All right, let's get over to Bitcoin. And Bitcoin trading effectively at 44K as we speak. We've seen multiple higher high wicks over the past couple days. Things are looking pretty good, but we can see that Bitcoin has tested this 44K territory 8 times, getting rejected every time, even including today's session. We'll see how today goes. We still have a lot of time for the traditional markets to wrap things up, again, as we move into a 3-day weekend. So we could definitely see the traditional markets close. We could see liquidity flood into Bitcoin and crypto before we move into the weekend. So of course, keep that in mind. And this is crucial because where this 44K level is situated is right at this macro 702 fib. I know this might be a little hard to see, but when you pull a fib retracement from our all-time high down to this cycle low, and you make sure that you're on a logarithmic chart with this fib log setting turned on, you will see the 702 fib. You might have to add it to your fib sequence, by the way. This is a very important level. I've added the 702 and the 0.888 fib because they've been a game changer in my analysis. So just some words of wisdom there. But what we're seeing here is this crucial level being rejected on for about 8 daily closes. And yeah, we have a couple things to break down right now. So take note of this. We are clearly struggling at this 44K. We could call that a short-term resistance, but we can also see that Bitcoin has effectively broke out of this short-term resistance line. And this was in play for a little under 2 weeks. And if I was to open up the 4-hour chart, we can see what's going on here. Effectively a resistance, breakout, and then a clean back test. And I really like the fact that this back test happened the way that it did. Let me actually adjust this fib to be more accurate. And you could see I have a micro fib pulled from the current high down to the swing low. And after we broke out and back tested this trend line to confirm prior resistance as a new support, we had a test through the 382 fib. That's a very crucial level, because to me, this looks like a Wyckoff accumulation schematic of buying climax, selling climax, automatic rally. You could call this a spring, effectively. Test right here after this breakout, and now we're in what's called an SOS, a sign of strength. Again, I teach this all in depth in my crypto mastermind course. So as we're breaking into this level now, we're sort of in what feels like a backup phase. And we're talking a super short time frame, and we're talking about only, maybe 3 weeks of data. Yeah, we're talking about 2 exact weeks of data. So this is very zoomed in right now. But again, when you learn how to do Wyckoff method effectively, you can apply it to any time frame with any interval. That's what's beautiful about it. I call it the market compass. And when you're lost, it's really nice to have a compass and a map. And that's what Wyckoff method is. So what we're likely to do next is more on the bullish side. And that's just based on some of these fundamentals. Clean back test the prior resistance plus a new higher high, confirming higher lows. We're in a bull trend. And if we look at this chart and synchronize it with our micro fib levels, this pretty much looks like a setup for a breakout. And for me, the confirmation would be a 4-hour close above this 888 fib that I brought up earlier. And a confident confirmation for me would be a daily close above this level, which would be a new daily close on the yearly high as well. And consider that we actually just closed the highest 5-day candle of the year. That's pretty big, because that setup could mean on this weekly close that we're about to have in a couple days, we could be having a new weekly closure high as well. So it's a very bullish year for Bitcoin. All in all, I mean, if we're taking from the start of the year and we're measuring up to where we are today, Bitcoin is up 166%. While let's check out Ethereum really quickly. And we're seeing from the start of this year with ETH up to where we are, we're only up 90%. Right? So Bitcoin is actually outperforming the second biggest altcoin and XRP as well. It's pretty interesting right now how this market is going, and it's showing you that Bitcoin cycle by cycle by cycle is remaining strong. And it's not doing what a lot of people have conspired to believe of breaking down into these like torrential, we have every year somebody new come out talking about Bitcoin going to zero. It's really an unsophisticated way of looking at this market. They're letting their emotions get in the way. Don't let that happen to you. So as mentioned several times on this channel for the past couple months when analyzing this move up to the golden pocket before it even happened, again, a reminder of a call that we made here on this channel almost 8 months ago, anticipating a 40K Bitcoin this year. And as for the title of the video I put out with 50K Bitcoin and $1 XRP, if you watch that thoroughly, you know I was never calling for a 50K Bitcoin, and all I did was show the pattern of the past cycles, cycle by cycle by cycle. We went through them very thoroughly. And the repetitive moves that Bitcoin makes, which is not Waters Above's opinion or prediction, it was macro technical analysis. And the same goes for XRP, which we will get into in a moment as we wrap up today's video. But remember with XRP, if you are very new to this channel, perhaps you've missed this. But for anyone, remember, I was publicly talking about de-risking between 80 to 90 cents months before this breakout we had in July, even publicly on interviews with the Bearable Bull. This is a very big platform for me to be sharing such analysis and to be so vulnerable and talk about de-risking at a level that a lot of people, again, weren't so happy to hear because they wanted it to go much higher. So I've already done my de-risking on XRP. $1 does not concern me because the future price projection for XRP in my analysis is going to double digits. So I'm not going to let the short term get in the way. The dollar concept comes from a fractal playing out on XRP, which has a breakout right at the end of this year into the new moon of January. Again, not a prediction. We will be getting into that in a moment. Yet, many are confused by this, and it shows that they don't actually watch the videos. And those are the types of people that are really going to struggle in the next cycle because they don't want to put in the effort to learn a skill from those who have the skills. And I hope any true investor who's tuning into this right now can learn from those individuals' mistakes. And I'm here to point out the cause of these mistakes. It's because they don't actually want abundance. They want to be told what to do. What does that sound like to you? Sounds like a sheep to me. So if you want to thrive in this market, you'll have to learn skills. And it's so common. I hear this especially from bigger channels. Saying that you don't need to know technical analysis. Also, I hear people saying, don't learn technical analysis. Now, that is probably the most dangerous thing somebody could convince you with. That's the most dangerous thing somebody can say if you're interested in this market. Because what you are hearing specifically is the words technical analysis. You're hearing you don't need to learn technical analysis, but you want to know what I'm hearing? This sentence to me sounds like you don't need to learn a skill. And here's the wisdom. If anyone is telling you not to acquire a skill, it's because they want to enslave you. This is what the school system does. This is what cults do. They keep you reliant on them by telling you not to learn skills. Be careful. out there listening to someone who considers themselves a leader and then at the same time has the audacity to tell you that you don't need a skill, especially when that skill is directly tied to the thing you're interested in, because that isn't a true leader. That's somebody who wants to keep you small like they are, waiting around for some miracle to happen. They get you sucked into the waiting game, and all that time in between, you could have been mastering a skill. Again, I go through all of this thoroughly in my expansion mastermind course, and since anyone who's taken that course comes back, I hear the same thing time and time again, that now they can see through all the false leadership that surrounds them, and now they feel as if they are embodying the leadership themselves. And that's a beautiful thing, and I'm infinitely grateful to be a part of that individual's journey of expanding their consciousness. And it's something I say often here. None of you are followers. And when I speak, I'm speaking to the ears of leadership. That's you. You are the leader. And a true leader not only possesses skills, but that leader feels like they're walking in their purpose when they help others acquire the skills too. That's the most beautiful gift you can give in this realm. And I hope you all appreciate these words of wisdom. I feel like it's needed now more than ever to maintain this frequency, especially as we move into this bull run, when so many are going to get distracted, so many are going to get fearful at the worst moment and FOMO in at the worst moment. What we're doing here is truly special. So final thoughts on Bitcoin. Keep an eye out on this daily close above that 44.3K level that I brought up, especially right now as Bitcoin's effectively trading at 44K. That would be a signal to move up into one leg higher between 46.5 and 47.5, essentially 47. And if that happens, that will be my personal de-risking area for Bitcoin, and only if that happens. If it doesn't happen, then it's all good, because I have my long-term investment thesis as the structure, and I will never go against that. Remember, create your plan, trade your plan. Regarding downside, we have to keep our eyes on this 21 exponential moving average, which is right now sitting right about 42,000, so keep that in mind. If we were to get any daily closes below that level, I believe we will fill the downside gap on the CME chart, which we will go over in a moment. And then for Bitcoin spot, it would be right around this 40K level, dropping, I would assume to 38, 37 pretty quickly. But for now, looking bullish. But let's look at this CME chart that I just brought up. We're going to be looking at like a 1 hour chart because I want to show these smaller gaps that are going on here. And again, this is analysis that I've shared with my community over on Patreon. I'm just giving you guys some of this information because it's needed. We see that we filled this middle gap here, so this is effectively taken care of. We do have an upside and downside gap to consider. And this downside gap is effectively what I would anticipate getting filled first if we were to have a daily close below the 21 EMA. But we still have this gap right here about 45. So that's something to consider as well for this month of December. And based on what's happening with the traditional markets holistically, it's likely to fill this upper gap first and then the bottom gap later. But whatever order it happens on is irrelevant. Well, we just have to remember CME is closing today and we're moving into that 3-day weekend for the stock market. So this gives plenty of time for a Christmas rally, as we could even have Bitcoin break out above 45K after the markets close today, leaving this upside gap open until CME reopens. I'm open-minded for how this could all go down, of course, and with the Bitcoin ETF launching in January, very likely I suspect they will want to correct this market so that all this institutional money can flood in on that dip, and then we'd continue higher over the next 3 months through Q1. And I'll expand more on this theory during my upcoming Red Pill podcast. I'll be releasing this Sunday at patreon.com/watersabove for the mastermind community. There I will have more time to go in depth on my outlook moving into 2024, and of course sharing my thorough analysis in that longer podcast format. But let's get over into Ethereum and XRP and wrap up today's video. So we're seeing a nice buyback on Ethereum today, catching up as Bitcoin dominance goes lower. And what we're seeing is essentially a retest of our current yearly highs. As we're seeing with Bitcoin, ETH is just catching up. And my upside target still sits the same for Ethereum. If we are to make one more move, It's likely around the 618 territory at the bottom of the golden pocket. Maybe 2,600 is possible, but I do not entertain much higher. So at this time, I'm really feeling like if we were to move one more leg to the upside, it would be about 47K Bitcoin and about 2,500 to 2,600 ETH max. And then we would have a pullback. And that's kind of what we're feeling, what I'm feeling right now in this market. And it aligns here with a prior support which broke, and now we've yet to really backtest this level to confirm it as a short-term resistance. And this would make a lot of sense because of the timing of our cycle right now for one more move to happen before a wipeout, a liquidation event on the upside. We've already had another one just a couple weeks ago. So this is kind of the energy that we're in right now. As crypto becomes the talk of the town, the apex predator will flood liquidity into these leverage markets, and they will do whatever it takes to liquidate you. So be safe out there. Don't play with high leverage unless you know what you're doing. Make sure to have proper risk management in place. Again, this is not financial advice. It's just words of wisdom. Stay safe out there. So on the downside, I believe that if we were to have that downside gap filled on Bitcoin, we'd most likely be retesting the 0.5 fib for ETH around 2,000. And then lower than 2,000, I think, is in the cards on a correction in the short term. At least by February full moon, I would feel that we would get another opportunity at sub $2,000 ETH. Again, if we get to the 1,600 level, I'll personally be taking advantage of that. But for now, I believe I have enough ETH in my bag to, feel confident in proportion of my portfolio generally. And another thing about my Patreon membership, it includes access to updates whenever I'm personally buying or selling. If you're interested in that, it's not calls, it's not trading advice or trading call outs. It's me just sharing with, vulnerability, what I'm personally doing in this market. So upside target on ETH remains the same. Downside target, I'd be looking for a deeper correction into right around 1,700. A break below 2,000 would initiate that. And in the meantime, we're kind of just hovering in this upside range. It's all about what Bitcoin decides to do next. Let's get over to XRP, which is really just coiling up right now. You can sense that a breakout is imminent. Anyone who is a technical analyst can feel, based on the structure right now, that we're about to pop. And that's just kind of what happens with XRP. While everything else is balancing in dominance, it's either leading the rally or its liquidity is coming in last and it's finishing off the overall altcoin rally. Something to consider. So right now we have to just revisit this fractal that we've talked about before and the timing of it all, which has a breakout date looking at the 27th of December. But remember, it's just a fractal. It's not anything more than that. It's not actual technical analysis. It's repeating a fractal of movement that we've seen in the past based off these candlesticks and the structure that we have over here. So we've been watching out on these two pump and dump moments leading into this rally right here. And that seems to be what's likely next for XRP based on the whole structure that we're getting today. I do want to be very clear, though, that this is not normal to be seeing this sort of chart in, considering all other altcoins. This project is really, really suppressed and it's really lagging behind. And all it will take is one day of liquidity to enter, to go into this project, and it will absolutely shoot straight to $1. So that's kind of the essence that we're getting right now. And that has been the essence of this project pretty much this whole year. These pumpy dumpy Bart Simpson head fake outs. So the likelihood of the next one coming in is very soon, probably into the January new moon, as we've shared. And as for now, we're looking actually pretty good. We have holding this 382, which is a common retest that we get in the process of a restructuring and moving into phase 2 of the bull run. So I'm really liking holding this level, and it makes us a little bit more confident that if we were to have a breakout above $1, if we were to come back down, we'd be holding that 382 level for the long term. So that's really good actually for long-term investors. But in the short term, I know this feels boring. I know this feels like, when is my coin going to pop off? And actually that's probably baked into the emotional sentiment of most investors. They want you to feel bored and like you're failing as an investor in one particular project so that you start to FOMO into stuff that's looking good. And again, I say good with air quotes because it's not actually the truth. If you are somebody right now that's an XRP and you're getting bored with it and you're throwing money into Solana, you're doing exactly what the market maker wants you to do. It's the opposite what you should be doing. You should be disregarding things that are up an immense amount that are overheated and start to focus on stuff that is boring. That is how you actually invest. So the value play here is obvious. I don't need to convince anyone of that. That's not what this is about anyways. I've always looked at this more like a trader's coin until we do effectively enter price discovery. But in the meantime, I don't have any other plans to de-risk this. Even if it goes to $1.20, $1.30, $1.40, I'm just going to lay low. I've already de-risked over here. I've already bought back in since, and I'm just riding the wave now. So I will keep everyone updated every step of the way as we progress through into this new year. And I appreciate every single one of you. I'm excited for this week's Red Pill podcast and wishing you all a beautiful rest of your day in the Matrix. Much love.